After you identified the flaw in their healthcare plan, and in order to demonstrate exactly how they could be affected from a financial standpoint, you may want to ask them a question. And because we're dealing with a population that is very familiar with many medical problems, one of the more common ones out there have to deal with hearts and perhaps heart bypass surgery. So don't be afraid to ask the question. Mr. and Mrs. Jones, would you happen to know of anybody that has ever had to go into the hospital and have heart bypass surgery done? More often than not, they know of someone, if it's not themselves, that maybe have experienced that. So as you ask that question, you turn over the Medicare checklist and you may want to write heart bypass surgery across the top. And when they come back and they tell you that they know of someone, you may want to ask them a question. Do you understand or do you know approximately how much that surgery may cost? Well, they're going to give you all kinds of numbers. Generally, whatever figure that they give you is going to be enough to demonstrate the point that you're trying to make with them. Let's just say, for example, though, they come back and they say, well, I think it's going to cost about $150,000. Now, keep in mind, depending upon where we live within the state, within the country, that cost will vary significantly. But $150,000 may be a good starting point. So you may want to write down $150,000. Now, from that standpoint, you could say, well, this is what the doctor is going to submit to Medicare. And of course, they're going to file a claim. You'll say, file a claim. And to educate them in regards to really how Medicare works, we know that Medicare is also known as the original fee-for-service program. So therefore, there's a fee schedule. And we talk about the approved charges that Medicare implements. So just because a doctor may charge $150,000 doesn't mean that's what Medicare approves. So we'll say, for the sake of simplicity here, that Medicare approves $100,000. And we'll put down Medicare approved charges. After we come up with that figure, then we tell them that their doctor needs to get paid. And of course, the breakdown is that 80% Medicare pays of the approved charge, and then the Medicare beneficiary is responsible for 20% of the approved charge. And we'll list it here for them. Therefore, Medicare pays 80%. Therefore, leaving a balance of $20,000. And who pays that? Well, in this case, it's going to be your Plan C pays. At this point in time, they're following along with you, and that's the reason why they purchased this Medicare Supplemental Plan C. Now, this is where you get to demonstrate your knowledge base with individuals. Oftentimes, they don't realize that doctors fall into one of two categories with Medicare. Those that accept assignment and those that don't accept assignment. Now, those are terms and expressions that are used to define the difference between those two doctors. However, if we were to use those terms with a Medicare beneficiary, such as a Mr. or Mrs. Jones, we may tend to lose them because they've never heard those expressions and they really don't know how to apply them. So the key for us is to simplify it so that it becomes easier for them to understand really what is going on from a cost standpoint. Now, if a doctor agrees to the approved charge as payment in full, we know that's an assignment accepting provider. And we know from that standpoint, if a doctor does accept assignment, that there's nothing more that they can go after. So $100,000, payment in full. What happens to this difference of $50,000 between those two figures? Well, that's just the cost of doing business with Medicare. Therefore, the doctor would have to chalk that up as a loss. Of course, that happens on paper is what it does. However, if a doctor is not an assignment accepting provider, in other words, they do not agree to the approved charges payment in full, they're protected by the laws of the land whereby they could tack on an additional sum to this bill. We know that to be the excess charge. We also understand that by law it's capped at 15% of the approved charge. So if a Mr. or Mrs. Jones had to go in and get heart bypass surgery, and their doctor does not accept assignment, then that means by law they can tack on up to 15% of the Medicare approved charge. And in this example, that figure could be as high as $15,000, or give or take a few dollars. So from that standpoint, when we highlight this particular aspect of the Medicare program with someone, then we may ask the question, if your doctor does not accept assignment, Mr. or Mrs. Jones, or if your doctor does not agree to the approved charges payment in full, by law they can tack on an additional sum of money. This example here could be $15,000. Do you know whose responsibility that becomes? And as you let them ponder the question, you let them know that it is their obligation to pay that. So at this point, not only have we identified the flaw with their healthcare program, we've also demonstrated to them the financial impact it could create. What do we do next? Well, we have to solve the problem. And by now, for those of us with a little bit of experience, we know how best to solve the problem, and that's going to be with another Medicare supplemental plan, but we're going to go for Medicare Supplemental Plan F. F as in Frank. How do we do that? Let's take a look next. Now that we've identified the flaw and shown them how the problem can be solved, we're showing them a Medicare Supplemental Plan F. Now we want them to qualify for the program. Hopefully they're eager to want to get this program and this protection in place because of the financial obligation they may be faced with down the road. With that being said, we got to give them a reason for them to want to see if they could get this program. It's not just as simple as filling out an application, they're going to get it. They have to qualify for it. So we're going to focus our attention and energies in connection with that. So perhaps what we can say is tell them, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, that excess charge is your obligation. However, there is a plan out there that if you qualify for it, is designed to take care of that cost for you. And of course, what most people appreciate about that plan, if they can qualify, is that it'll give them peace of mind knowing they won't be a financial burden to themselves or to their families. And then we can ask them a simple question. Would you like to see if you could qualify for this program? Well, hopefully at this particular point, we won't get any pushback from the individual. And after all, what does it hurt to see if you can qualify for the program? Once we get their buy-in, so to speak, then we pull out the application and we go through the health-related questions. Here's a suggestion that I have for you. At this juncture, an individual may want to ask a question such as, I know there's a plan out there, but how much does it cost? Resist the urge to answer that question until you determine whether or not they qualify for the program that you are going to show them. How that's going to help you and aid you is that it avoids the situation where you quote them a rate and they say, that sounds great, let's go for it. And then we find out that they don't qualify based upon the underwriting philosophy of the company that we're showing them. However, there might be another company that will consider them based upon their underwriting philosophy, but then the difference between the two in cost could be significant. And now they feel as though you may have pulled a bait and switch on them. So if they ask you, well, how much is this going to cost me? You got to tell them, you really don't know. We have to see first if you can qualify for it. And based upon how you answer these questions, will determine what the cost of the program is going to be. Now, after you get your buy-in, or their buy-in, I should say, you're going to ask those health-related questions, and should they qualify for it, that's when you're going to tell them what the cost of the program would be. And then you ask them some additional questions and you fill out the application. Now, you can come back to the Medicare checklist at this juncture, and you can demonstrate to them how this new program, should they qualify for it, is going to protect them against that out-of-pocket cost, that excess charge, if you will. Up here, you may want to put down Plan F. And now you have another opportunity to go back through the Medicare checklist and explain to them how the new Medicare Supplemental Plan F is going to be designed to protect them. So if they go into the hospital under Part A, whether they're there 1 day or 60 days, that $1,260 per benefit period, well, we know that a Medicare Supplemental Plan F will cover that. We're going to write that out. From day 61 through day 90, we know there's a cost of $315 per day. Medicare Supplemental Plan F will cover that. When it comes from day 91 through 150, $630 per day. Medicare Supplemental Plan F will also cover that. Post-hospital care or rehab. Medicare Supplement will do nothing. And once again, Medicare takes care of all the costs for the first 20 days. However, from day 21 through day 100, $157.50, the Medicare Supplemental Plan will address that one. However, everything above beyond 100 days, the Medicare Supplemental Plan won't take care of that cost. Nursing home, it doesn't do anything there either. When it comes to the annual deductible for Medicare Part B, it's $147. Annual deductible, it's covered. And then, of course, Medicare is going to take care of their 80% of the approved charge. Medicare beneficiary is responsible for 20% of the approved charge, but Plan C covers it, as does Plan F. Put down 20% of approved charge. Then last but not least, if their doctor does not agree to the approved charges payment in full, they may levy an excess charge. And therefore, a Medicare Supplemental Plan F covers 100% of all excess charges. The last column then really helps to solidify the sale for you, and it's going to demonstrate to the Medicare beneficiary what their out-of-pocket cost is going to be based upon how they utilize their health care. So now we go back and tell them, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, with this new coverage in place, should you be able to qualify for it, what that means for you out of your pocket above and beyond what the premium is going to be for this program. When it comes to that $1,260 per benefit period, what do you pay? You actually pay nothing. From day 61 through day 90, they pay nothing. From day 91 through 150, they pay nothing. The first 20 days of post-hospital care confinement, rehab, skilled nursing facility care, they pay nothing. Remember once again that Medicare covers the cost of those first 20 days. Then from day 21 through day 100, they would pay nothing. When it comes to everything above and beyond 100 days, if somebody needed to cover that particular cost, unfortunately, they would have to cover all costs, because a Medicare supplemental plan is not the insurance product that's going to solve that problem for them. When it comes to nursing home, custodial, intermediate levels of nursing home care, Medicare supplement pays nothing, which means they have to pay all costs. Then when we get into Medicare Part B, the annual deductible, that's covered, so they have to pay nothing. When it comes to 20% of the approved charge, there is nothing that they pay. And then last but not least, when it comes to the excess charges, they would pay nothing. By completing that last column, you're demonstrating to them the comprehensive nature of this particular program and how it could benefit them. But you can also see how it identifies another area of weakness that needs to be solved. Of course, we may want to solve that problem in a future date, in a future visit with them. This is just a quick demonstration on how we could utilize the Medicare checklist to, one, identify a fault with their healthcare program and provide them a solution, and we can demonstrate and show them to them on paper exactly how that program is designed to protect them, it's going to help to solidify the sale. And it's going to prove that you are indeed the professional that you indeed are. So with that being said, that completes this segment of the training on the Medicare checklist. We'll come back at another point in time to see how we can use the Medicare checklist to serve as a springboard to other products that we have in the product.